Hey man, what
Hey,
I'm so excited to have you on the show.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Yep. So my name is Azim Nagree, and I head up M&A origination for Herringbone Digital.
Awesome. And so how did you get into this business?
Fun story. So when I was growing up, Jason, I always wanted to be a lawyer, and so I did become a lawyer. Practiced in Australia for a couple of years, hence the funny accent. I did M&A lawyering for quite some time, and I had this moment where I was 2 o'clock in the morning. I was working on the sexiest deal you could possibly think of, and I'm like, I hate this. Like, this is not fun at all. And I quickly realized was I didn't like the legal part of M&A. I love the deal making aspect. Fast forward, went through a couple of different roles, and then had an opportunity to sort of get back doing M&A, but on the sort of commercial side and not just the legal side. And that's been tremendously fun. So I've been doing that specifically in the agency world for the last probably about 6 years. It's been
I,
super fun.
I'm trying to think of the skit. I think I saw like a skit one time. It was like these two dudes trying to pick up these two women and they were just saying like, "Hey, I'm in M&A." And they're like, "What?" Right? Like I'm trying to think
Because that's going to be the most sexy thing you can possibly drop at a bar.
exactly. I'm trying to think. If you guys know what I'm referring to, put it in the comments or
Yeah.
shoot me a text on that because I thought that was kind of funny. But let's kind of talk about, there's a obviously our market's been getting disrupted
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yep.
And I always look at it as there's lots of disruption and it's peaks and valleys and that kind of stuff. And all the research I've been doing is kind of there's a lot of movement for agencies selling right
Yeah.
now. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah. It's a great, it's a great observation, Jason. And I think there's absolutely movement. I think there's a couple of different factors playing into this. Number one, I think no secret, private equity is coming into the market. A stat that I always like people to have in the back of their mind is if you think about the private equity market in total, there's $2.5 trillion invested in
With
private
a
equity
T, not a
with a
B.
T. Okay, here's the stat that a lot of people don't realize is of that two and a half, 1.5 trillion with a T is still to be invested. So when people talk about the concept of dry powder or the desire for private equity to invest, it's because these guys have got $1.5 trillion plus minus that they need to spend, and so they're looking for a very very wide set of industries in which to invest. And agencies are well and truly on their roadmap or in their target area because they see all the things that we love about the agency world, work with clients, the recurring revenue, the margins when it's done right, they see the same thing. So I think that's one sort of variable. PE is here and it's here to stay.
And like when you're looking for a deal, is there like kind of like a sniff test to be like, yeah, this is kind of let's talk a little bit further, or is it
Yeah.
like what are some of the signals to be like, this man, you stink. Like,
So there's always two things that are critically important. Sorry, three things critically important. So number one, strategic fit. Like if we're going to buy you, or if you want to be bought, or if you're going to buy somebody, man, you better have a really good reason as to why you're doing that. Like you can't do it just because it's cool. It's got to be part of an overall strategy to expand your market, move into a new geography, offer new products, achieve economies of scale. We can talk about more of that, but it's got to fit strategically.
yep.
Number two, and this one I think is often not talked about enough, is cultural fit. Like you're about to be married to this individual or to this
Yep.
business or to this company. If you guys can't get on from that first call or thereafter, you're not going to get on. And so don't think that you can force your way through that cultural misalignment. And then the third thing is obviously financials. It's got to make sense from a financial perspective. To your point about the sniff test, um, the financials have got to be real. Even if you think that you can kind of get away with painting a rosier picture of the business, don't, because a sophisticated buyer is going to run the numbers. They're going to discover, all the dead bodies. So I might as well be upfront with them and just, figure out whether that's a transaction you want to do, or whether that's a business that you want to fix first before you try and sell.
Yeah, I tell a lot of people, about the dead body part is they'll usually figure that out whether in the last hour
Yep.
or the first hour. So might as well get it out in the open, be like, here's where all the dead bodies are in the
Yep.
first hour. So you don't waste your time, because I find
100%.
a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of companies go under because of this.
Yep.
They start going through the due diligence. That takes a lot out
Long
of you.
term.
And
Yep.
also you mentally start checking out of the
Yep.
business,
Yep.
right? Because you start going, oh, he's going to give me how much money? And you're like, like $1 million, right? Like, or $1 trillion.
Yeah.
But you start thinking of the deal is already done.
Yeah.
But then you start taking your foot off the gas and you start doing
Yep.
things you wouldn't do if this wasn't happening, because you're like, oh, that's their problem.
That's
I
their
don't care
problem.
about it.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And then the deal falls through. Now you're left with a heap of shit.
Yep. Yeah. No, and then we've had instances where that's exactly happened, and suddenly, look, we think we do diligence pretty quickly, but even then, it's a 3 to 4 to 5 month process from start to finish. Others take longer, and so to your point, as a seller, you're in this for 6 months. This is not the type of thing that's 30 days. I'm out. It's a 6 month process, and so to your point, if you start to take the foot off the gas, and I've seen this happen in a couple of transactions we've done, is that what the business looks like on day one is different to the business that ultimately gets acquired. And that's not a good look for a seller. And it can be in the form of, and this has happened, real example, one of the biggest clients churned. Like, I don't want your business anymore. I'm sorry, man. Or your growth tanks, or your salespeople or your key employees start looking elsewhere because they start to get a sense that you're mentally checked out. You've got to keep running the business all the way through.
Yeah. I've never publicly said this. And I probably not many people know about this either. So it's breaking news.
Oh, here we go.
Right.
I'm on.
A couple years ago, there've always been people trying to buy us,
Yeah.
Agency Mastery. And a couple years ago, I got pretty close. I thought about it, but I was always kind of the complete opposite. I wanted to make it the business even better. And then as the due diligence went on, I was like, why am I going to sell this? Like, I love doing this. I love my team. Like, it
That's
makes a
awesome.
ton of profit. Like, and then last minute, I was like, no, I'm out, guys.
Yeah.
It was
One of the
it was the opposite one.
one of the really interesting things, Jason, is that you know people always ask the question, what do I need to do to optimize my business for sale? And my answer is the exact same things that you should be doing to optimize your business, period.
Yeah.
Like, you need to focus on revenue growth, profitability, retention, people, so all those types of things that will make you more appealing to a seller are the things that you should be doing to run a great agency anyway. So, your story is not uncommon, where people sort of say, wow, I just reinvigorated my agency. I finally dedicated all the time and energy to fix this business in anticipation of selling. Well, shoot, this is a great business. I don't want to sell it anymore.
Yeah.
And then they double down and just keep running it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, you know, at the end of the day, I feel like, and even when I was buying agencies back in the day, I would try to talk them out of it sometimes. Be
Yeah.
like, you're making over $1 million a year.
Working
You're not
20 hours a
working
week
much.
with a great team.
What am I missing?
Yeah.
But then and I tell people they should actually sell when there's a couple of things that line up. And one is, I think if you know exactly what you want to do next,
Yeah.
right? And if it's different, right? Like if I wanted to go be an airline pilot, perfect. I would have sold the damn thing.
Yeah.
Right. Or because when I sold the first agency, I didn't know what I was going to do next. And just sitting on the damn beach or playing
Yeah.
golf or pickleball, tennis or whatever by yourself, because everyone else is working, it's
Yeah.
freaking boring.
Yeah.
And you don't have that significance. Or if you believe you can build something better with help, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, people, they think they reach kind of their
Vice versa.
evolution of
Yep.
the height, which is not true. It's just at that moment at time, that's this highest you'll go. When I sold the first agency, I look back and a couple of years later, I'm like, God, man, I could have grown it to even bigger
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
with all the
yeah.
stuff that, I've eventually learned. So, it's just, there's a number of different reasons. You just got to make sure you know exactly what they are.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, Jason. So back to your earlier question, what do we look for? One of the things that I always want to understand is from a seller, what's your motivation? And more importantly, what do you want to do afterwards? And there's no wrong answer. Different buyers will have different criteria, but I was speaking to a buyer this morning, and their model is when they buy a company, they sort of transition the founder out over a 3-6 month period. That's fine if that's what you want to do. Our models will be different. We like founders to stick around. There are folks that want to take that capital and go and invest in another business. That's also fine. But having a clear understanding of what you want to do is really critical before you start engaging with potential buyers, because that's something that they're going to want to know really, really early on in the conversation.
Well, and be honest with the buyer
Yeah.
if you want to really stay or
Yep.
not.
Yes. Oh man, I love this one.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
I think we were at a conference not too long ago where, I think Eric or someone was talking about, like, just be honest with me and we'll work out a deal based on
Yep.
whatever you want.
Yep.
Right? Versus, like, don't lie and be like, yeah, I want to stay with you. And then, like, being like, oh man, I just don't work well with others or someone telling
Yeah.
me what to do. Right? Like, it's just going to be a train wreck.
I've done that acquisition. A couple of years back, we did an acquisition, and the seller told us all the things. I'm committed. I love the vision. I'm here for the long term. Uh, Day 365, sorry, day 366, notice came in. I'm out. I'm like, bro, what happened? You said you were committed. He's like, yeah, never was. Taking my money and running. Like, that just sucks. Why would you do that?
Well,
But
and it goes back to reputation too,
that's it. That's
right?
it.
Like,
Because that's
you
not,
know,
he's that guy's
it,
in the agency world. He's not leaving the agency world. And I know my reaction is going to be when I come across him next time.
right? Like, ever since, I sold the first agency, and from that, even leading up to that, I always knew, I was like, man, whatever I say, I have to do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
your people are always going to have an impression, and, like, I want it to be a good one,
Yeah.
and they know what I stand for and what I'm going to do, and be like, oh, Jason said this and he's going to do it, versus, like, and, like, I even told the company thinking about buying us, I was like, look, I, I probably wouldn't be the best employee, but I
Mm-hmm.
do, like, if you do give me creative freedom just to do the podcast, I love doing that.
Yeah.
Right. But any of the other things, like, if you want me to sell, hell no. Like, like, it just, because the chances are of you retiring and never doing anything, not because you get, I mean, obviously, if you sell, I want all of you to have you never have to work again, but you'll want to work again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you
Or
burn
you,
those
or you
bridges,
only want to
man.
work on the things that you want to work on with the people that you want to work on with those with.
Yeah. I've come across so many people in the past 26 years that have they've burned bridges,
Yeah.
with me
Yeah.
and other people. And I'm like, okay, like, I got all my
And,
receipts.
and it's crazy, Jason. I mean, again, this as does your audience. The agency world is really small. It's really small. You're going to meet the same people in the same circles. And even though you may sort of think, there's 150,000 digital marketing agencies or whatever the case may be, the reality is the folks that you interact with are going to be the same folks that you interact with in 6 months and 6 years and longer.
Yeah. I want to go, in the pre-show, you were getting pretty excited about a
Well,
particular
feisty
topic.
there.
And then I was like, shut up, don't stop. Like, this is good content.
Yeah.
So obviously I was telling you, I'm seeing a lot of PE firms continuing to buy agencies for a really nice multiple, a
Yep.
higher multiple than they would get just based on EBITDA and some other things and reoccurring revenue, based on their use of AI.
Yep.
I'll leave it like that. I'll let you go, and then we can kind of go back and forth. Because people
Yeah.
think AI is ChatGPT only, right?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. That's exactly the issue. Is when you talk to an agency owner about how what their AI strategy is, and their answer is, well, we use it for content. My answer is, you're not using AI. You're using
Grammarly.
ChatGPT or Grammarly or something like to displace, a handful or supplement a handful of copywriters. That's not AI. Yeah. So the thing that I always coach and counsel agency owners around, their use of AI is that AI is a tool. At the end of the day, it's a tool. It's a really sophisticated tool, the likes of which we've never seen before. But at the end of the day, it's a tool. And ultimately, what I care about as a buyer is to see how you're using that tool to change the fundamentals of the business. So let me be more specific around that. Is if you are effectively using AI, I expect that to show up in terms of higher revenue growth and or higher contract values and or lower cogs and or higher margin and or higher retention. Like those are the things where successful deployment of AI will actually show up. And
Yeah.
that's what I care about as a buyer.
Yeah, it's more about integrating it, being a leveraged AI agency, right?
Yeah.
Like building it within all the systems.
Yeah.
I look at agencies that are trying to implement AI without a system. It's garbage, right? Like it's just
Yeah.
garbage in,
100%.
garbage out.
Amen.
But if
Amen.
you have a system and you start going, how can I make my team more efficient
Yep.
or give them superpowers? Like one example that I was sharing with my mastermind, and I always hate to recommend a tool, right? Like,
Yeah.
so right now, Claude is one of the best
Yep.
models out there.
Yep.
Tomorrow, it could be totally different. Like, that's
Yeah.
how fast it changes.
Yeah. 100%.
And so, one of the things that we would put a lot of effort into it, since we create a lot of content, right? Going back to your example,
Yep.
traditionally people would like sit down at a blank canvas and be like, what do I need to create? Or go out and look at all the news and debrief and
Yep.
go over with the team and kind of go back and forth, or and I'm not talking about just going to ChatGPT and go, what should I create today for LinkedIn, right? And then using the rocket emoji and all that stupid shit.
I love that. I love that.
But so what I did is I was like, all right, I want to go out, I want this thing to help me recognize patterns and things I
Yeah.
could not recognize as as a flawed individual and only with so much brain power, and I want to be able to do other stuff. I want every week it to go out and look at agency news, competitors, positioning, people I respect outside the industry, everything it knows about me, and then make recommendations
Yep.
to me going, Jason, here's 5 topics that are hot right now that you might want to talk about. So it brought me an article a couple weeks ago about Forrester saying 15% of agency roles will be replaced by the end of the year. I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So then I go, I like that topic. So then it gave me a couple headlines that I could kind of feel. I was like, well, what could be a hook based on everything you know about me? And then I could create the content.
Yep.
Once I created the content, it would do the video editing for me, which is unbelievable. It zooms in, zooms out, does captions, all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. And it can suggest other things, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what you all need to think about is like baking it into the system. Imagine if you did that with
Yeah.
your clients.
Well, I was going to say, so I was talking to an agency owner who was definitely on the sort of cutting edge or forefront of deploying AI, and I was sort of talking to him about how he's using it. And he basically said, look, I'm just building a whole bunch of custom LLMs. I'm like, okay, I think I know what you mean, but sort of talk to me about that. And what he said was that as part, and I hope that I'm not sharing too much proprietary information, but it's a good use case. What he said was that every time they onboarded a new customer, they fed every single bit of information about that customer, both publicly available as well as what gets disclosed during the sales calls, the onboarding calls. We fed that into customer LLM. And so now you have this persona that is that specific customer, all their hopes, their fears, their dreams, their aspirations, the inner workings of their business. their goals, their objectives, everything. And then he said what he did was that he basically gave that LLM to the account manager and said, now everything that you do for that client needs to have the context
Yeah.
of that LLM. And that just delivers a vastly superior experience to that customer because now all the campaigns are explicitly designed to achieve that client's objectives. Custom reporting in the way that that client's like, the communication cadence, the communication style, all of that is specifically bespoke for that client. And the account manager can do that for 50 customers and make every single client feel like they are that account manager's only client. Like that, to me, that's a really cool example
Yeah.
of AI that goes beyond just content creation.
Well, it's everyone has access to the tools, but
Yeah.
we have access to our own data.
Yeah.
And that's
That's
kind
it.
of our DNA,
Yeah.
right? So like we all have bodies, but we all have different DNA. That's what makes us different. And so like when I hear people going, I go to AI and I just get AI slop. Well, I'm like, you didn't give it the branding
Yeah.
guidelines, you didn't give it the context, the origin story, the
Yeah.
operating system. You haven't built this the system around it. It goes back to what I said before. You have no system, AI
Yeah.
is not going to help you.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to have
And
that
look,
system.
I think it's one of those things that people don't realize, but it's kind of like how you would interact with a human.
Mhm.
Like if you bring a new person onto your team
Yep.
and say, "Hey, write me a blog post or build me a website," and that's the only prompt you give them,
It's gonna be crap.
they're not going to get a great product back. But
No.
if you do what you would normally do, which is exactly as you described, here's the context, here's the goals, the objectives, branding guidelines, style, tone, color scheme, etc., they're going to come up with something pretty cool. Well, you have to feed AI that same level of context to be able to get the output that you're looking for in
I have
whatever in whichever way you are looking to deploy AI.
I was chatting in the mastermind yesterday, and one of our members, one of my friends, mentioned he's a big Marvel fan, and so he named all his agents after
That's
Marvel
awesome.
characters like Jarvis and all that, right? Like all
Yeah,
this kind of stuff. But it's like, and I've done the same thing. I haven't named them, or like we have marketing Mark, but all our roles, like the
yeah,
different things we've created, are for different roles of how, right? From like marketing Mark, or you know,
yeah,
Sam Salesy, or whatever you want to call it, whatever it is. It just kind of makes it a little bit more connection to
yeah,
your
yeah,
team. But and we were even chatting about this too. The owner, like me, I was going to Darby and Stacy, like they're so sick of me. I'm like, check out this stuff that I did, right? Like I find it so cool because I'm
yeah,
like, I like creating stuff, and I just find it very interesting that I could create a website in 2 minutes that used to
yeah,
take me 3 weeks,
yeah,
and it's just as good. And they're like, that's kind of stupid. But it's just like, if you can get them to adapt a little bit at a time,
yeah,
right? And you're just persistent, you're not requiring them, but you just keep saying, look, man, we have to evolve. You
yeah,
may be an ads manager now, but you probably need to be an AI manager
yeah,
going forward, because AI is going to be able to do this. Like AI is already replacing the low level jobs.
yeah.
It's already going to the middle level jobs. But so people always ask, like, well, what happens to the low level jobs? Well, they need to go up because now
Oh,
you have AI. So now you can go to mid level,
yeah.
right? And you can keep going up and up.
What
But for
was
the ones fighting it, they're done.
yeah? What was really interesting, Jason, is that we actually did a survey that we just published, and happy to share that with the audience. But one of the sort of big topics was around deployment of AI, and it really highlighted this real dichotomy whereby in one question all the agency owners are like, yes, AI is probably one of the biggest strategic initiatives that we need to wrap our heads around for the upcoming year. No duh. And then the next question was like, what are you doing about it? Are you
Nothing.
hiring? Are you training? Are you doing anything? And the answer was none. Not doing any of that. And so it puts those agency owners in exactly the position that you just described, is you're asking your team to do AI, but you're actually not investing in AI. You're not investing in the team, and without it, they're not going to come up that learning curve that you need them to do. And as a result, you're not actually going to effectively deploy AI, which goes back to my original point. You're not actually going to move the metrics that really matter because you're not effective in your deployment.
Yeah. I mean, if they just realize, just start experimenting with it, because
Yeah,
what
that's
you'll
it.
realize is you'll get way more efficient. It gives you back a lot of your time.
Yeah,
And if your team gets back some of the time, this is going to make you even more efficient. Now, in the
yeah,
very beginning, yeah, you're maxed out. You're
yeah,
doing 60, 80 hours a week. Put in an extra 5,
yeah,
because that will save you 10 the next week
yeah,
and
yeah,
10 the next. And you can kind of start evolving your role, because I find a lot of agencies are at the first level. They're
yeah,
an operator. They're everything goes through them.
yeah.
And then they start moving up to manager, but all the decisions still goes
We'll
through
go
them,
through that. Yeah, 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 yeah,
right?
yeah.
But then if you can get to architect, now you're on the way a little bit, right? You're designing those systems for approvals and for leadership, and then you can get
Yeah.
to CEO and then owner. Like if you can get to owner, like the first time I sold the agency, I wasn't an owner. I was a CEO. I was
Yeah,
still in charge of profit and
yeah,
the ultimate decision.
yeah,
But as an owner, like I'm an owner of Apple and KPMG and
yeah.
Walmart and that
Right.
kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It doesn't require Jason.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, no, it's, and sort of going back to one of the topics you talked about at the outset, one of the, what are some of the pitfalls or what are some of the things that we look for? It's really that level of dependence
Mhm.
the on the
Lack of
owner.
founder dependence.
Yeah, like I think a lot of founders, just because of their force of nature and their history, they end up having roles to play in every single department. Well, I do get involved in sales a little bit, and I do approve the website copy, and
But you
I
don't have
do
to,
that. That's it. Not
right?
only do you not have to, Jason, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You
But
shouldn't
if it
because
gives you energy, I feel that
sure, 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 sure. But
you
it's
should,
but
right?
you shouldn't need to. Maybe that's a better way of describing it.
Yeah. Because we were working with one of our members, and I was on my high horse that day. I was like, you don't need to be in sales. Like, get out
Yes,
of sales, right? And she got out of sales. She hired a salesperson. The business was doing great. But guess what? She was
miserable,
completely depressed.
miserable because she wasn't doing the thing that she
Yeah.
loved. Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, okay. I was like, Audra, why not, like, what do you like about sales? And she was like me. She likes adding color, right,
Yeah.
toward the close. She doesn't like the follow up and
Yep, yeah,
all
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
bull crap that goes around it. But I was like, all right, well, cool. Well, let's just add color. Like, you just be in those meetings. Like, I was always in the first creative brief meeting because I liked it. I
Yeah,
loved
yeah.
it. It gave me energy, but I didn't have to. Now, did
That's
I
it.
hold the agency back on that part? Yes, but I liked it.
But I think to your point, it's very much when the founder is involved on an as need because they want to be versus because they need to be.
Yes.
And even if you're as a founder in that sales meeting or in that account brief meeting, you still need to make it very clear to your team that they do have permission to move forward without you, because
Mhm.
otherwise it still gets bottlenecked, it still gets clogged. And that's the biggest challenge with so many agencies as they start to scale. And I see this constantly, right around that 3 million of revenue mark, people start to struggle to get that sort of 5 to 5. And the biggest reason is because everything still has to channel through the founder or the owner or the CEO.
Yeah.
And the more you can move out of a role from needing to having to be in the meeting to I might turn up, I might not. That's what's that big unlock for you and your team.
Yeah. One of the things that we do in the mastermind is the first 60 days, we really work with the members coming in to remove kind of the profit leaks. And then
Yeah,
the next 60 are all about removing them as the bottleneck.
there you go. That's it. It's huge. It's
Right.
huge. And
So,
and I get it because a lot of owners probably still, most of these owners, they were the ones who built this agency from scratch, and it's really hard for them to extricate themselves from the detail. But that's what is ultimately going to enable that agency to scale.
yeah. All right. So, as we're getting toward the end, tell us, who are you looking to buy?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So we're very much focused on digital marketing agencies that are focused on serving lawyers, doctors, dentists, and home services. We're backed by private equity, so we've got plenty of cash around, which is great. We've done 6 acquisitions in our first 14 months, which, as you can attest to, breakneck speed. But I think we've got a really, really good model for helping founders, especially those who have got plenty of gas in the tank and they want to keep going, but they just want to be part of someone big. So
So
maybe it's
you want a founder that wants to keep going, take some
definitely
chips off the table.
we're open to anything, but we love founders. You know, as you know, as a founder, a couple of things happen when you get to your agency. Number one, the vast majority of your net worth is tied up in an agency. That's all paper money. So that's one sort of consideration. Another thing is there gets to a point, as we're just describing, it might be at the point where you can't go the next level just because of who you are or because you don't enjoy it. And then the third part of it, and Jason, you could probably speak to this explicitly, it can be lonely sometimes. As an agency owner, it can be really, really lonely. And so
Mhm.
our model is, let's take some cash off the table, put it in the bank, feel good about the financial security for you and your family. Second one is let's surround you with other owners like you, and whereby you can actually have open conversations. You're not doing that by yourself anymore. And then the third thing is, we're trying to create something legacy. We're trying to really transform the industry for these local businesses. Uh, and as someone who's been passionate about that space for a long time, I think it's really cool for an agency owner to see that what they're building is going to be truly transformative versus just another agency that delivers
Is
leads.
there a certain revenue criteria on EBITDA or top line
Yeah,
revenue?
so sweet spot for us is sort of 1 to 5 million of EBITDA. Revenue sort of probably in that sort of 5 to 15 million range. Look, a degree of flexibility around there. Let's and it's always one of those things. I love having conversations with people, even if they're not there yet, because we want to help them get there. So even
Mhm.
if maybe now is not the right time to sell, well, let's have a conversation about what you need to do to get to that point where you are going to be able to sell for the valuation that you're looking
Oh,
for.
well, that's when they join the mastermind.
Yeah. Yeah. They can talk to me first and then I'll
And then you
recommend.
go,
I'll
yeah,
tell them
you
all the
go to
things they need
Jason's
to do, at
mastermind.
which point they join the
That's
mastermind.
right. That's right. And so are you doing like splitting the deal? Like, so like for example, what we used to do is we would do like, let's say they're a million in EBITDA. I'm
Yeah.
just giving someone a
Yeah.
general picture because there's lots of variables that go into it,
Yeah.
right? Especially if you use Grammarly and ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It increases your multiple, right?
by de
I
facto,
guess
yeah.
I'm not getting a sponsor by either of those companies right now. Like they've just
That's okay.
blacklisted
I think
me.
I think you'll survive.
I love ChatGPT. Please rank me. Um, but like we would go if you're at a million in EBITDA. Usually, the general rule of thumb was around 4 to 5x.
Yeah.
If they were really specialized, whether it be an AI or something, they would get a higher multiple,
Yeah.
and we'd give like 50% cash and 50% of ownership in the new entity.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
your average deals?
Yeah. Look, I think you're spot on in terms of valuations. I think if someone trading at a million is probably looking at that, 3 to 4 to 5, depending upon a whole range of variables. Um, I say this that their agency owners are starting to be reset because I think there was still a hangover from the 2021 days where multiples were much, much higher. Agency owners are becoming more sophisticated about recognizing that that was a point in time and those multiples don't apply anymore. So what you described, I think, is very, very fair. In terms of deal structure, again, very open to different structures. We typically prefer to put a lot more as cash at close simply because we believe that we should be compensating the seller for the businesses that they've already built. Like,
I like that.
for them to roll that much equity into the new venture, you're asking them to sacrifice or take a big risk.
Yeah.
I don't think that's personally fair. I think we should be doing a vast majority. So we typically do like 80% cash at close because you've built something awesome and we want to pay you for that and you deserve to be compensated for
Yeah.
that. And then the remaining part, exactly as you described, it's a rollover into the larger entity because we want you to help contribute to creating value of that larger entity, and we want you to be rewarded from that through that famous second bite of the apple,
Yeah.
or yeah,
Which
that
which we all hope, but I always tell everybody there's never a guarantee on that. Right.
there's never a
That's why I like
guarantee.
you guys doing 80%, because now,
Exactly.
it's because I always tell people expect the 20% goes to zero.
Yeah. I, I caveat that with one thing, Jason, which is, due diligence on the buyer,
Yeah.
because there are some buyers out there, and I put us into this category, consistently delivered a track record of generating results and returns for the founders. Uh, Again, history is no prediction of the future, so you're
Yeah.
right. There always is that, but there are folks who are more likely to deliver than others, and so
Oh yeah.
part of the diligence process to really sort of think that through.
Yeah. No, and I always tell everybody, whatever the buyer asks, ask them for the same thing back,
Yeah.
because you're qualifying them just
Oh,
as much as they're
100%.
qualifying you.
I love that. And I think a lot of buyers and sellers don't recognize, well, sorry, a lot of sellers don't realize is that it's an active conversation. Like, just as much as the buyer is grilling you, you should be grilling the buyer, because again, what you're signing up, unless you're transitioning out after 6 months and it's 100% cash at close, uh, it's going to be a relationship that you have with that buyer for 12 months upwards to 5 years. And so you better know who you're getting to bed with.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, everyone, go check out what they got, especially if you meet that criteria, or if you're close. So
Yes.
then he can.
I love this stuff, Jason. So I will foolishly open myself up to have a chat with anyone, even if you're not in the criteria, even if you're a little bit earlier, if you're in another vertical. I love this stuff. So feel free to reach out.
Tell them the website to go to check you out.
Yep, herringbonedigital.com, or I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You can find me there. And again, just email me, DM me on LinkedIn, just reach out any way that you want. But I love talking about this stuff, as you can hopefully probably tell. So happy to chat with anyone at any
Cool.
time about anything M&A related.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys, for listening. Go check out what they have. Tell them Jason sent you. And until
Yes.
next time, have a swank day.